This week we're going to work with data. The first time we'll work with real data and do real work. The work that we do will be simple in the beginning, but it's going to get more sophisticated as we move forward. And as we do so, we're going to learn about the objects, methods, functions, and operators that we can use to manipulate the data in multiple ways. Remember that Python's central strength is something called ETL, extract, transform, and load. And what extract means is pull the data out of a data source, like a file, a database, an Excel spreadsheet, off the web, off a JSON file. There's hundreds of different file formats that we might work with to get data out of a data resource. The one we're going to focus on this week is one of the most common and also one of the simplest, and that is the CSV file. If you look at this CSV file is just plain text. And this week we're going to work on files. And when we talk about working on files, we're talking about plain text files. Actually, your PY file is also a plain text file, but there are a lot of files out there that are in plain text. And all plain text means is characters without formatting. So a Word file, for example, is not a plain text file because it has formatting information. But a plain text file, like a CSV file, is plain text. It's just characters. And so what we do when we manipulate files is manipulate the characters manipulate the various characters in the file. Now, CSV file, as you can see, uses commas to separate the fields on each line. Actually, if you think about it, there are two characters that are delimiting this file. In other words, the data that we want is like here and here and here. But not here, not this comma. We're not interested in the comma. The comma is something called a delimiter. And the delimiter says, I am a separator between the field to the left of me and the field to the right of me. Actually, there's a second delimiter character that you can't see here, and it's called the newline. The newline character is the special character that occurs between the end of one line and the beginning of the next line. If we look at what the file more or less actually looks like, it actually looks like a single stream of characters. There are the same characters that you saw at the beginning, but there's the end of the first line, and then we see this \n. This is something called the newline character. The newline character is important. We need to understand what it means and also how to recognize it. For one thing, the newline character is actually being used here, although you can't see it. The end of one line and the beginning of the next line actually marks the display of the newline character. That means that the newline character is telling your display to drop down and go back to the left side of the screen to start displaying the rest of the characters. But if we look at the actual characters, you can see that a line ends with a newline character. Now, this looks like two characters, and literally speaking, it is. It's a / followed by an N. But when Python and when other programs like your text editor see this character combination, it's what we call an escape character, it recognizes the / plus the N as a single character called the newline character. And all the newline character is, it's an actual character. It's actually in your file and it's represented in your file, and it just represents the end of the line. What the program decides to do when it encounters the newline character is up to the program. For example, if we print a CSV file, we're actually going to see it represented as lines. The truth is, a file doesn't even have lines. There aren't actual lines that go vertically down the page. All we really have is a stream of characters that are punctuated by newline characters that represent the end of the line. So the line itself is actually an abstraction. It's not a line of text the way you would imagine it on a piece of paper. It's actually a stream of characters that has a special character that marks the end of the line. In fact, the history of the newline character is that it used to be a device instruction. It used to instruct the printer to drop down or advance the paper one line and return the printing carriage to the left side. If you've you've ever seen a printer, it used to print, you know, the way you would write with your hand from left to right, and then it would jump back to the beginning, advance the paper, and write the next line. So this is the newline character is telling the printer to do. So that's the basics of what a file is. Now what we're going to look at in this class, this week, is a series of objects that allow us to parse this file, the CSV file. What does parse mean? Parse means pick apart. Pick apart. Or divide into usable pieces. That's really what we're going to do. We're going to take an undifferentiated stream of characters and learn how to separate those the characters into groups that we can use. For example, we might want to look at this float value. In fact, what we might want to do, and what we're going to do in this class this week, is one of the things we'll do is we'll look to sum up a column of values. Now consider the problem. The problem is that when you look at a file, you're going to see an undifferentiated sequence of characters that is punctuated by a field delimiter and by a line delimiter. These delimiter characters are going to be the ones that we will use to parse the CSV file. As you can imagine, this is a bit low level, meaning that we actually have to personally manipulate the strings that are involved in a file like this one. Fortunately, Python does give us a few features that are going to allow us to do this, and the combination of those features is what's going to make up the programs that we write. In fact, what we're going to do this week is very similar to what we did the first week. We're going to look at a list of features that allow us to do this work. And when you look at the feature summary, you'll see another list of features similar to the one we saw the first week that allow us to do this manipulation. And what we're going to do when we write our homework outlines is combine these features into a sequence of moves or transformations that we'll use in combination to get this work done. It'll be very similar to tidy border and the tip calculator in that you need to assemble a sequence of features in order to get this work done. So we're going to look at 3 object types. 2 are new, and one of them is old, the string object. And we're going to look at these 3 objects. Oh, here they are. The file object, which allows us to access a text file. The list object, which represents a sequence of objects. It's actually a container. We'll go into all of this, like a list of strings or a list of integers. And then also the string object, which we've seen before. And we're going to learn how we can divide a string into pieces. So we're going to learn something new about the string object. Here are the things we're going to do with each object. We're going to learn how to read a file as a single string. We're going to learn how to read a file as a list of strings. We're going to learn how to read a file by looping through the file line by line, and we're going to learn about the loop block this week as well. For the string, we're going to learn how to split a string into a list of strings. We're going to split a string on a delimiter. We're going to learn how to slice a string by character. So let's give me the first 5 characters or the 5th through 10th characters of a string. So we're going to be able to slice a string by character position. And then we're going to look at the list. That is, we're going to see how we can select an individual item that is an object from a list of objects. So we'll go over each of these pieces in the upcoming videos.